right.
Michael, hey, congratulations for Murderberry win.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Hey, you know what? I always appreciate any movie that actually utilize games into it.
It's historically underrepresented in movies. Like I have to like go to watch the Saw series for my game fix. It's like, where are the board game movies?
Right? So where did the original idea came from for this film? What sparked it for you?
Well, I've always been a board gamer who uh you know also hates the idea of competition. Paradoxically, it kind of drives me to play more collaborative games. But I thought in that idea, the idea of, not liking value systems that place a loser alongside a winner, maybe there's an avenue to explore that idea in a film. And hence, the idea of making a movie around a board game developed, and I thought, well, what's more cutthroat, winner loser, than a board game about killing someone? And so it really just kind of the pieces of the puzzle fell into place from there. And the result is Murderberry Win, with which is I guess pretty dark.
So did you come up with the game first before you wrote the script, or you went ahead and came up with the script before the game?
So the script was always priority, and I developed the mechanics and the rules of the game alongside the screenplay. I don't recommend developing a game this way, though, because I'm writing for the mechanics of a story, not the mechanics of a game. So when I actually had the first table reading, I let the actors play the game for the first time, and oh boy, in the film, when you hear criticisms about the game itself, like, oh, there's no place to house the cards, it's it's monotonous. Those are actual criticisms the actors gave me of my game at the table reading, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to put them in the screenplay, and you did exactly what I wanted you to do. Thank you, actors. Yeah, it wound up working out in the film's favor.
So did you finally finish developing your game? Is it a playable game?
Oh, it was always playable. It's always technically functional, but I have not gone back to that well yet. If someone wants to, I'm not a board game designer, so if someone out there wants to help me produce this game and like fix the rules, then hey, talk to me. I'm all ears.
You know what's funny? The reason why I love this game was because I used to design stuff, games before myself. I've done it with a company called Wizard of the Coast,
Yes, yes.
or for a small game called Dungeons and Dragons, and then my brother used to work for a company called Upper Deck, and he used to design a collectible card game for Marvel.
Okay, that's awesome.
So it was to some of us. This is actually hilarious because it's a cutthroat competition.
Well, that's really great. It's you have some unique insight here into the development of the gaming process, which is great. My experience is largely, I work in the video game industry, but there's a lot of crossover with board gaming itself, just by lieu of my colleagues, and also by my attending a lot of gaming conventions like Gen Con or E3 or PAX. There's always the game area, the board game area, which is where I spend all my time. I wind up always going with a suitcase that's empty, and I coming back home with a suitcase that's full. My wife's like, do you have time to play these, and where are they going to go? So they're stacked up in the corner of my room.
I love Gen Con. Used to work at that convention for about 8 years.
Gen Con is great. It is like the perfect confluence of food court smell and excitable personalities and just about every type of game you could hope for, and swag. I was at the 50th anniversary there a few
Yeah.
years, and it was just like a blast. I was filming some videos there, and I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. It's terrific. But every time I leave Gen Con, the TSA always sees the board games I carry because they're still wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
And they require you to open up the board games.
Oh no.
And if you refuse, they actually seize it because they don't know what's actually inside. So
That's a bummer. I'm sorry for the loss of that plastic. Like,
that's okay. That's okay. Gen Con always replaces it for me. Now, in your board game itself, how many crazy weapon cards do you guys actually came up with?
okay, so I came up with probably like 30 or 40. Like the full deck is quite big. And aside, those murder weapons, for the most part, they come, with a few exceptions, they come from actual ways I've seen people killed in movies. So like that was important to me to put in some unlikely murder weapons that I've seen actually dispatch of people in movies I've seen throughout my life. So a lot of them, the nail clippers, that came from my imagination. I hope to use them in a film someday, but a lot of them came from, movies that I watched growing up, where I thought, well, that's a dumb way to kill someone. I love it. And yeah, hence the deck.
So ultimately, how did you decide which weapon to use as a murder weapon in your own film?
So it's funny. My my friend John and I, with whom I developed the story, we wrote out a list of the dumbest ways to kill someone, and we put them in a hat. And we told ourselves we're just drawing one, and whichever one we pull out, that's the one that has to be used in the film. And it was the one that is used in the film. And I think that actually worked out really well because it plays into a lot of metaphors of the story. And I'm very satisfied we pulled that one out. There were other dumb ones in there. There was like wallpaper was like one of the weapons, and I was like, I'm really glad I didn't have to think of some creative way to kill someone with wallpaper.
I mean, it works for your movie.
It works.
Yes. Now, as for getting rid of the body, that's always a challenge for any type of movie. So how many different ways did you try to figure out to get rid of a body? Because I know my sister loved those murder documentaries, and she writes down, 1,000 ways to get rid of bodies.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it was important to me that, like, I do my research and watch a lot of films that were about disposing of a body, between, Shallow Grave by Danny Boyle, Arsenic and Old Lace, Frank Capra, and Breaking Bad even. And I thought, it'd be interesting to just, do a comedy of errors where nothing goes right, like you see in all these films. Things don't quite go right, in all these other depictions of getting rid of a body, but for the most part, they do. The way they want to get rid of a body is the way they do. And I thought, nah, I don't think it's that easy. And I, just had fun working in like all the ways that can get messed up when trying to embark on something they thought they were well researched on.
Absolutely. Talk about the cabin that you actually used. Is that your cabin?
Airbnb. It was like my wife found that one. It was close enough to home. She was pregnant at the time, so she couldn't be there on set. And it was like, well, let me shoot somewhere with a proximity to home so that I can get home in the case of an emergency. So we found a place a few hours up from where we live in the Redwood Valley, and that Airbnb just like fit the screenplay perfectly. It was like it was remote enough to where it could plausibly be the place where someone would want to kill you, and it made sense for the characters to be able to do the things they do and not get a lot of attention from neighbors. So always wanted to film in a murder cabin, and thankfully I found one just online through Airbnb.
Was it hard for you to come up with the props for your murder cabin, or did you actually come up with real props?
A lot of those props were from friends and family that had those weapons lying around. Like those maniacs, like I just sent out a filter to all my friends, like a request to all my friends, like, hey, does anyone have any like weapons they're not using that I could put in the film? And like, yeah, all of them raised their hands, and like some of them came to my place of employment with like a bag of weapons of like, here you go, Michael. So that was just luck of the draw. What you see is what I got.
Well, that tells you a lot about your friends.
I still have some of their weapons 3 years later. I really need to return them.
Talk about your cast. Your cast has excellent synergy and chemistry throughout the entire film. They're hilarious.
Yes, they're amazing. I I'm so grateful that they worked together so well because none of them knew each other before we filmed. I knew Eric, who plays Adam, and I knew Craig through meeting him after his shows at some improv comedy festivals. Um, so you know, I reached out to them very directly. Um, as for Henry, he was a backstage audition wherein I saw his audition and I couldn't see the character any other way. I couldn't, like, I was watching other audition tapes. I'm like, but he's totally the guy. Offered him the role the day after he submitted the audition. He thought it was totally weird and this is a scam. And but it was real. And then Mike Lynn, who plays Chris, and Brian Slayton, who plays the Officer Dan, they were recommendations to me via a casting agent friend, and they were the one and only primary recommendation that she gave me, and they were just perfect. They fit the characters perfectly. Got them all together in a room. They just synced up. Their energy was great. I had to do very little work, you know, in terms of getting them to connect. It was more just making sure they're in the right place emotionally. They know what they want, and they know what they would do if they don't get what they want. Aside from that, you know, all of them, all of their connection is entirely them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you made a small cameo in this film, if I stand corrected. But if I not to give out any spoilers, but you were carrying some of your favorite board games. Am I correct? Do you recall what they were?
Oh, I know I'm carrying Kill Their Dreams. Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm probably carrying Columbus Strikes Again. I don't remember the rest of them though, because it was I was trying to prioritize the games that you didn't see throughout the rest of the film, but I know that Kill Their Dreams was like the number one priority there.
Oh, were they your favorite games?
They were the characters' favorite games.
Games, you're right.
I interpreted my character as someone that probably needs a little bit of help.
And what are your favorite board games?
So my absolute favorite board game of all time, and not to be cheeky, it's Pandemic. Like I thought that game would prepare me for the real world. It did not. However, that game is amazing. I love that it fosters a communal sense of winning together, or losing together. United we stand. Together we fall. Like I love that game. I think my other favorite game is probably it's called Once Upon a Time, and it is a storytelling card game wherein you work together with a group of friends or enemies, I don't know who you play with, to create a fairy tale together. And you're kind of competing. It's a little competitive, but it's communal in the sense that you're working together to create something. And that's just a beautiful game. Hard to find out there, on your local game store shelves, but I recommend people go out there and seek it out because it is the most fun you will ever have creating a story with a group of people.
Excellent. Well, I was going to be afraid if you were going to say like a ton or something like that.
No. Yeah.
Well, anyways, hey, Michael, hey, congratulations once again for Murderberry Win. Really appreciate you speaking with me about and talking about your movie and games.
I love talking to you too. This is great. And I had a great time.
Excellent. Next time. All right.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.